Good evening, welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today we're going to break the transmission in this 2021 Lexus GX460. We're going to go ahead and take this off-road. It's only got about 11,000 miles on it, but we're going to unfortunately break the transmission, or at least parts of it, off-road. It's going to get high-centered just like you see there. So watch this video for a good example of what not to do so you don't end up like we did. Now, we are going to take this Lexus GX460 off-road, and we're going to go basically up Copper Mountain, which we've done before in a previous video. So if you want to see that, go ahead and check that out. Just check the channel, and then we're going to go down the backside of Copper Mountain, which is the east side. Excuse me, the west side. And that's where we're going to get hung up on this surprise rock and get high-centered on the transmission oil pan. So enjoy the video, and let's go over what not to do.
Copper Mountain Road, instead of going straight ahead, which is the way I came, we're going to bang a hard right here and go down the east side of the mountain, right at this radio antenna. And we'll check this out. Should end up at the dry lake once we get down the east side of this mountain. Excuse me, the west side. If I've been saying east side, I'm sorry. We came up on the east side. We're going now down the west side, and we will get to the dry lake from the west side. So forgive me if I said that wrong. We are headed west down Copper Mountain. There's the dry lake ahead. You can see that in the distance. Absolutely beautiful. I think we're supposed to bang a left here. Let's get out and look. It's too steep to really tell from here. Close the sunroof because it's pretty windy out there. Basically, it's a steep, rocky drop. Turning, so we're going to take it in 4-low, obviously first gear. Beautiful views up here. Looks like some rock steps ahead. Another rock step. And I'm gonna go ahead and walk this out because we got some big rocks to the left. Let's see what they look like. Let's get it.
And that is the sound of being high centered on your transmission oil pan. So obviously it's not a good sound. So let's talk about what happened. The video doesn't show it justice, but it's very, very steep downhill, and basically what looked like a little rock, even though I pre-walked it, since it was downhill, once it hit the front slider, because we were facing downhill, the front two tires lost traction. In other words, because the terrain was going down and the rock was on the front skid at first, the front two wheels lost traction as it skidded ahead and then went onto the transmission, which did not have a skid. And that's another lesson here, is to be patient and wait till you get a transmission skid plate. We had one on order, but I was impatient, so this is exactly what happens. This is the consequence. So you can see the rock passed the front skid just fine, and that huge rock then hit the transmission oil pan. So it's sitting on the transmission oil pan and jammed right there on that cross member. So it's kind of wedged between the cross member you see there and the transmission oil pan. Now again, if we had a transmission skid, or you had a transmission skid, you would have just slid right over this. You might have gotten high center, but you wouldn't have you wouldn't have damaged the transmission pan. So here we are, the back wheels are on the ground, the front wheels are clearly off the ground, and there's no traction. You're high centered. So it's inevitable to get stuck off-roading. This was our first time, and there's a first time for everybody. This was ours, and many lessons will be learned. So how did we fix this? Easy. We dug it out. Well, it wasn't easy. This is after we dug it out, and I called two good friends and really good people. They probably don't want the names on YouTube, so let's just call them JN. We'll use their initials, and SR. If they're watching, they know who they are, but two great gentlemen helped me out, and I called them. Thankfully, they were nearby, and JN brought his truck and came up the way I did. In other words, the west side that you saw in the beginning there. And we started to go ahead and where he proceeded to dig out the rock, essentially. And his logic and experience, he's got 25 years experience in off-roading, way more than I have. And the experience, he said, was dig out, remove the problem, essentially. The problem was the rock, remove the rock. How do we remove the rock? Dig it out. It was a 400-pound rock. It took two of us to move it, and it was a lot of work, but we essentially dug the rock out. We did jack up the rock with the bottle jack. By the way, this is after being freed, and we're going now down the rest of Copper Mountain. So we made it down. It was just hung up on that spot. And it's a real bummer because, of course, it's such a beautiful trail, and we're getting to the fun stuff, and of all things, a high center. But anyway, now here's SR, our other good friend, and a really, really great guy who was there to help winch out if we needed, but thankfully we didn't need it. And he led me back the way he came, so I knew how to get out of there. And again, great, great, great people. Thank you, JN and SR, for everything. Your help and experience are invaluable. Really appreciate it, and it's always good to have people like this to call for help when you need it. Here's me trying to give SR some $100, and he keeps throwing it out the window at me, so it didn't work. But I'll repay him somehow, some way. Anyway, let's take a look at the carnage that this rock did. The oil pan is crushed, and there is weeping at the flange. In other words, where all those little 10mm bolts are, because it got tweaked, and those things are only torqued down to about 5 foot-pounds. It's going to have to go in for repairs, obviously. Not any major leaks. It still drove out of there. It still drives, but obviously there's damage and there's lessons learned. So when you're going downhill, look for rocks. High centering downhill, I think, is more of a risk than going on level or going level or uphill, because you think you're going to clear that rock, but the hill is going down, and you clear the rock, but the terrain goes down too, and you lose that front contact with the tires. I hope that makes sense. But the cure here was shovel. So if you see people carrying shovels, it saves the day, because no winch got this out, no big truck or anything. It just took a shovel, and we dug that giant boulder out. Well, not really a boulder, but a giant rock. It was on its way to being a boulder. And it was very heavy to move. So again, appreciate the help from JN and SR. I couldn't have done it without them at all. So I am in debt to them. So off we go, and the car still drives, and we got to get fixed. So it's going to the Lexus dealer, and we are at their mercy. So hopefully they do a good job. And I'll certainly give a shout out if they do. If you've liked this video, please remember to subscribe.